Well, thank you, Tamara, for being our guest tonight. So this ESRA Tuesday will be held in English. We have normally the translation for the French student. Yes, of course, as usual, you're welcome to ask any question you want. I'm going to ask you during the discussion if there is any question you want to ask. Few of your questions have already been selected, so of course I'm going to call the students who were chosen, but all of you will have the possibility at any time to ask a question. So just, yes, raise your hand, stand, introduce yourself, and ask your question. As you all know, this masterclass tonight is a bit also special for me, as I was part of the process as a co-writer, but nevertheless, I'm going to try to be the neutral journalist and to be a kind of intermediary between you and the director. So since you all seen the film, maybe it's a good way to talk about your work, to start with this work, because you have also directed a lot of documentary. And maybe I thought it could be interesting to talk about the production process of that movie, because I know it, I witnessed it, it was quite a long process.
Yeah, I think to go into the beginning, so I come from documentary cinema. I've directed 4 feature documentaries, I've directed short films, and around 10 years ago, I had this kind of idea, and then we shared together this idea that I wanted to make a film that would be about the wounds of my country. I'm Armenian, originally, let's say. I'm from Armenia, I'm born there, and these people, let's say, my people, we've been through a lot of torments, a lot of catastrophes, a lot of traumas, right? And then I said, what is the best way to talk about trauma if not through fiction? And that's why I chose the fiction. Because a lot of people ask me, so yeah, you come from documentary, how do you alternate between documentary and fiction? But my reply is always like, a film is a film. Sometimes there are certain subjects that you want to discuss in a documentary form, in a documentary cinematic language. Other films you want to do in a fictional way. So that's how it started, and then we started working together and discussing what are the traumas of this country and how to deal with them. And then I remember very well, we said, what is the best way to talk about loss? Because for me it was quite clear that the husband should die. And then we thought, what is the best way to talk about love, to talk about death and mourning, if not through love? You remember? Mm-hmm. So, and then this is how we started to write. And then it took 10 years, but it didn't take 10 years all the time. The production was complicated. There was discouragement. The film was not being financed. It's something I think you will also, you have to be ready to witness in your career. Future directors, producers, scriptwriters. It's never easy, but at the same time, I see some of my students over there. When you want something, you fight for it, and you go and you do it. That's always the motto. You want it, it's the passion that's in you. You have to just break all the doors that you can to get what you want. So, and then we stopped at some point when we had some discouragement from production people. And then at some point when nobody believed, we had some writing help from CNC, what we call aide à l'écriture, a script writing grant, that would be in English, that helped us, 4 of us. Donc it was me, Jean-Christophe, and 2 other people, and we wrote collectively. And I always say, for me, cinema is a collective art form. For example, a painter paints alone, right? A writer writes alone. But cinema is a collective art. And if somebody tells you the reverse, don't believe. because it's something that we do together. Even at some point, there's the co-writers and then the actors and the cinematographer and the producer, and everybody has their hand in it. I mean, you agree, right? So that's how we started working again. It took us around a year to write, to rewrite, and then we had what you discussed about production, which was quite extraordinary, is that for a first film, because I don't know if you realize, there are very famous actors in the film, especially Camille Cotin, which is like one of the very kind of stars in French cinema, and not only French and American. She's shooting with Brad Pitt in a few days. I mean, it's a bit like almost impossible. And Zara Mir, an Iranian, a very famous actress, and they're very famous Armenian actors. And also this, I think it's something important to say, your future cinematographers and directors, that it's so important to, when the actress or the actor that you're trying to get feels the passion in you. We were doing an interview with Camille, and I remember one of the journalists asked, why on earth did you accept to work with a first-time film director? And you know what her answer was? She said, I met Tamara. I love the script, so that's also very positive, because if the person doesn't like the script, the person wouldn't want to meet you. So I love the script, but what really pushed me to do it was her desire to make the film. And I remember this, and I said, this is insane, because I didn't do it on purpose to tell her how much I wanted to make the film. I was just there, like talking about the film, talking about why I want to make it, sorry, why it's so personal for me, but at the same time, it's personal, but it's also very collective, because a personal trauma can turn into collective trauma. And then again, sorry, why would we talk about something personal if it's not going beyond the personal? You see my point? Like, if it stays just on a personal little level, then who cares? But if it goes beyond and it goes touching more universal people, for example, when I showed the film in Korea, a lot of Koreans told me, well, we really relate to it. And I was like, really, you relate? They're like, yeah, it's about our war, North and South. When I was showing it, I don't know, in some other place, where was it? Where also, was it in Italy? They were like, yeah, we have seen this. Like, okay. And so more and more, like, it's something that could talk to others, to countries that have lived through war. And then, just sorry to go back to Camille, and she said, I felt the desire you had in you, and I wanted to accompany you in your desire to make the film. And I think this is extremely important, because famous actors, famous actresses, they are there in order to make happen also what the other wants, right? For example, a filmmaker has an idea. Without a filmmaker, the actress cannot act, and vice versa. Which means that if the actress doesn't have proposition, at some point, she cannot work anymore, right? And the reverse. So I think this is something very important to, yeah, I talk too much, maybe you want to ask a question. Sorry. Yeah, and then same again, sorry. Maybe for the cinematographer, she's also a very famous cinematographer, and same thing, like she's done 30 feature films. And then again, when they ask her, why did you accept to do this film? And she said, in French, on a tous nos morts. We all have our deaths. We all carry people in us that we love, that have left, who have died. And then again, I think she was also curious to discover Armenia. And also, I remember when we started talking, she said, tell me, how do you see the film? And I told her, I see in long shots, plan séquence. Is that the word in English, long shots?
Long takes.
Long takes. One shot takes.
One shot take,
yeah.
long take.
And she said, you dare to do that. I said, of course I dare, it's my first film. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point if we're not gonna dare to do? Because there's some shots that like last 4 or 5 minutes. Well, it's not something you do every day, because it's kind of taking risks. But I also think that sometimes cinematographers or even sound people, they like to feel that you have something original, like you want to dare, you want to push limits, and you just don't want to stay in a like kind of something very classical. Yeah. I can continue forever, so maybe it's better you can.
No, just maybe looking back to all the process, why do you think, with retrospect, that it was a especially difficult film to finance? Is it because it was a first feature, or was it because of the topic?
I have the feeling that, first of all, first feature films are difficult to finance, indeed. And also, it's a complex film, right? It's dense. It's not a simple story. We had a lot of trouble during the writing process because we didn't want to be educative. Didactique would be the word in French, trying to put all the, like, we need to talk about this in order for the people to understand that, then we have to give this information. That was the hardest part. How not to fall into kind of, I'm giving you a lesson about Armenia. But that's not the point. I'm making a film. We're talking about cinema. So that was for me the hardest part, I think, to give without giving too much, to suggest through cinematographic language, to make it happen through sound. So this was also a lot of a creative process, creative challenges that we had during script writing process. And then again, I think I had some feedback like it's too daring for a first film. Like I remember one of when we had Avance sur Recette, it's like the production grant from CNC, the Centre de Cinématographie Nationale, the like film center that finances films. So I remember somebody saying, if it was a third film, I would understand, but it's a first film. Will you be up to it? It's a bit strange question to ask. I said yes, I was arrogant. But I think sometimes you have to be, because then sometimes they have to understand that you are ready to do it, because that's also what scares people. When they realize that you doubt, they can say, oh, she's not ready. She needs time. But when they feel like this desire, passion, and at the same time, you know what you want, you're sure what you want, and you're going to do it. I think that's also important, but then it takes time also. I think the fact that I come from documentary cinema, it helped me to have this kind of confiance, certitude, trust in myself. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that I came from documentary, that helped, definitely.
You were talking about Camille Cotin, and we have a question from Marguerite related to actors. Yes. Yes, stand up, introduce yourself, and someone is going to give you the mic.
Yes, this is specifically because the film is with such a big name as Camille Cotin. And the question is, did collaborating with such an established actor influence your directing process? Do you find, there's multiple questions. Do you find advantages or limitations when working with big names compared to developing performances with less experienced actors? And when you then knew you had her for the role, did you change the script to adapt to her specific style? Or I'm just curious about the directing process when it comes to big names. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I will try to answer it all together. First of all, I didn't adapt to her, but I did a lot of lectures. Like we read together the script several times. And sometimes she had suggestions. And I think it was interesting because she has to adapt the script to herself. We wrote it, but we imagined it, but she's going to play. And she's not like, she's not just a puppet, you know. And I think that's also what when I talk about collective art, the actors and the actresses, they bring a lot to the film. Because at the end of the day, they work on the character. But that's also very important when you work on the character. How do you build the character? You write, you imagine, you fantasize, you don't dream, you don't sleep at night, you dream about her, okay. But then you have to continue creating this character with the actor and with the actress. And that's what I did with all of them. You talk about Camille, but also the others. We spent a lot of time talking about, a bit like theater. I work a bit like theater with them because I also come from theater. I studied both theater and cinema. I grew up in a family, my father was an actor and theater director. So I saw him a lot working with actors. So I did a lot of reading like this. you know, like preparing, talking, what's the background, why is she doing this, why is she doing that? And Camille is somebody who works a lot also alone. But nevertheless, every morning she would come and say, Chouchou, we're going to change this. Chouchou means my darling. We're going to change this. I was like, okay, we're going to talk about it. And sometimes I would listen to what, I always listened to what she had to say. Sometimes I would go towards what she said. Sometimes I would say, no, I'm really sorry. That's what I wrote, and I want to do it this way. Sometimes her suggestions were interesting. Sometimes they were less interesting. That's normal. That's a creative process, right? And about the fact that was I impressed to work with a big actress, right? Something like this?
Do you find it easier?
Easier, yeah.
Establish actors or?
I think it's, I think both can be interesting because in the film I had less known actors, non-actors, some non-actors at all. And it's very interesting and different to work with each. I really enjoyed working with Camille because she's a super professional actress. She gives a lot. She works a lot. You know, I would see even after the shooting, she would go and repeat the text all the time. She had the text all the time. She's like in immersion with the character, you know. Sometimes people ask me if I was impressed, like, was I a bit like, oh my God, how am I going to direct her? No. But I think what helped me, what I was saying, something I reflect a lot now, the fact that I grew up in theater, like I saw my father directing very talented actors. Like I grew up with very talented actors in my house, like daily. So this kind of famousness didn't impress me because I took her as a human being, as an actress, and her desire and my desire met, and then we were there to create together. I think this should not, because if the actor or the actress feels that you're impressed, they will take over you. And I didn't want that. So it's a collaboration. And I think the most important was this collaboration. There was no like, I'm more powerful than you, I'm more smart than you. There was not, no. I think if you start falling into this, then I think you won't manage. I mean, I don't know. I think it must be very complicated to this prise de pouvoir, like to feel like you're in power of something. No. And none of them, and I think I have a lot of respect for my actors, and none of them tried to kind of act out that they know. They've done 30 films and I've done none. None of them. And I think that's also something, there was this mutual respect. Did I answer all your questions, or there's something that I missed? No? Is it okay? Sure.
Are there any other spontaneous question about whatever, the casting, the screenwriting process, the production? Yeah?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, just wait for the mic.
Maybe, hi Tamara. Hi. It's just to continue the question. I also was curious, the work with the actors, but not that she's famous and how you interact, but yes. Like I'm more interested in how you how you work with the actor. Like
yes.
You stop her on the stage and like how you direct her, like, how to communicate with the actor. This what interested me.
So as I was saying, I work a lot with them with like theater style, like we have scripts, we read together, we rehearse, and then during the shooting process, I don't interrupt, no. I let them do what they have to do, and then when I said coupe, cut, I go with and talk to her. For example, if there's something I didn't like, I always say, it's very good, but let's discuss. Because if you go say, it's bad. They're like, okay, wait. It's very important. It's kind of diplomacy, but it's respect also. She gives you what she thinks, like she has to give you, right? You're not happy about it. If I was not happy and happened that I was not happy, I would go and discuss like, okay, let's try this. Let's try that. I really like this part. I didn't like this part, but what about if we intensify this feeling? What about let's remove a bit of this? Like try to kind of discuss in respect, in harmony, and without like a delicate way to impose, but without too much like, because it's also like to come back to what kind of the way you work with actors, it's a lot of respect, for me, and there's a lot of methods. There's our methods where the directors are very, very, like, how would I put it? Like a bit forcing, a bit being like authoritative. I'm not the kind. I'm more into discussion, I'm more into dialogue, I'm more into understanding. But at the same time, I push my ideas in a delicate way, but they know they are here to serve the film. And I think when this trust is established between the director and the actors, they listen to you. If there is no trust, then I think it's going to be very complicated to work with actors. But once you have established, that's why it's very important to spend time, and I've spent a lot of time with Camille and the others, just drinking beer, talking about kids, men, love, life, anything. It also creates this link between us, human, because first I always say in documentary or in fiction, the most important is the human relation. After the human relation, you can go and ask whatever you want. If you don't have the human relation, you're like a dictator coming, I want that, that, that. Some directors do it. I was yesterday talking with my first assistant director who was telling me what the hell she lived because the actor and the director were hating each other. It happens. But I hope it won't happen to me. But it happens, yeah. Sure.
Just coming back to the production process, you said that you never expressed doubt when you were meeting, I don't know, producer or people from the industry, but I'm sure that maybe you had a moment of doubt.
Of course.
By yourself. So how did you manage to overcome those moments?
To hide my doubts?
No, to overcome for yourself this moment of doubts, to stick to your desire to do that film.
There's always a doubt. Of course, and then if there is no doubt, for me, there's no film. Because you cannot just say, I know it and it's perfect. No, never. I always had doubts. I mean, we worked together almost 10 years, so you have heard me, I think, expressing my doubts, and all the writers also. And the doubt is there, but the doubt also when you talk, when you discuss, when you think, that also you overcome it. But of course, it's important that it's a process. The process doesn't happen like this. It takes time. And definitely by talking, by doubting, by doing, by acting, by discussing, you overcome this. And of course, when you are in front of your producer, if you have a good relation with your producer, you can't say that you doubt. I don't think it's not something to hide. You say, well, you know, I'm thinking if this is the good thing, if this is the bad thing, and then we're talking about writing, and then there's the shooting, and then there's the editing. How many times I discuss with my editor about my doubts? Definitely, I say, well, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure. And then she said, okay, take a break, go, let's meet tomorrow, let's take the time. It's a process. Making a film is a process for me. The process goes from doubts, from knowing what you want, from going and accomplishing the film, directing it, editing it, and then again, I mean, you pass from so many steps. But then what we were talking about doubts, it was more about the financiers. That's the problem. Because if they feel you have a doubt, I remember, you know Canal+, it's a TV channel. My meeting with them lasted 4 hours. They financed the film, but 4 hours I had to defend the film. They arrived, the director, the assistant, and the other assistant. I was like, okay. And then they opened the copybook, and they had all this question on doubts. Why do you want to do this? And on page number this, line number that. I was like, wow, okay. This character says that, and that character. And I had to kind of defend the film during 4 hours. And at the same end, they said, okay, you have it. I was like, whew. But then you have to be ready for that. And then again, I think when I was a student, I'll tell you something funny. I had a class that was public speaking. I hated the class. It was in English, and you had to go and talk in front of people. And I was shy. I'm like, what, going and talking in front of people? But this teacher of mine, I still remember her. I must have been your age, even much younger. She kind of broke me. She said, no, you want to be a director? Go out there and defend your ideas. It was called public speaking. I don't know if you have this class here, but it really helps. For
speech sessions.
well, but maybe it's something like this. It's just to go there, to stand, because it can be very impressive, standing in front of 10 people and saying, I know what I'm doing. It's impressive. Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes like you have all your ideas, it's here, it's in your heart, it's everywhere, but you don't know how to put it forward. That's why I think it's a kind of exercise which can be helpful to go and pitch, to talk, to convince, to make them feel that you know what you're doing. Even sometimes if you doubt inside yourself that you're not sure. But I think it's important. But then again, a lot comes by collaboration also. When you talk with the scriptwriter, you talk with the producer, you talk with the assistant, you talk with the actors. It's a process.
Maybe if you agree, what could be interesting is to take a precise scene, sequence from the movie, and that you explain the intention with which it was written, what changed during the discussion with the DOP, the actors, the sound engineer, and then what then changed after in the editing room. Maybe it could be a good way to introduce your filmmaking process.
For example, can I choose the scene?
Oh yes, choose please.
You know the scene in the bus, the rap scene. Did you like it?
Yeah.
So this scene didn't really exist in the film. Yes, sorry. It existed like the bus is going to traverse the frontier, the border between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. And what was written in the script, that the bus driver is kind of humming a song. That was the scene. We arrived to the preparation, during the preparation process. So the bus driver I meet, the bus, the red bus, I love it. So who's gonna drive the bus? The driver, okay? So I tried to discuss with him. I said, you know, the way I imagined it, you will be humming. He looks at me and said, I'm a bus driver. I'm not gonna hum a song for you. I said, okay, clear enough. And this, you cannot discuss. The guy said, I'm a driver. It's my truck, I'm gonna drive. This is what you want me to do. I will do it for you. Don't ask me more. He was a very shy guy, very tense. I said, okay, it's his car. I need the car. So I have to find a solution. And the fact, I think that I come from documentary helped me in this state. So I was like, okay, I was like there. What do I do now? We were preparing. We were supposed to shoot like in a few days. And before that, I've heard this song. And the guy, whose name is Lyoka, he worked in the film in production. He also does production. He's a rapper, but he also works in production. And I thought of him, so I went to see him. I said, Lyoka, do you think you can sing in the bus? He looks at me, he's like, what do you mean, sing in the bus? I said, you're a passenger like any other passenger, and I want you to rap while you are in the bus. He looks at me, he said, is Camille gonna look at me? I said, definitely, with pleasure. I said, okay. And then I go to my cinematographer, Claire. I said, Claire, I have this idea. I know it's crazy. I don't know what you think. She's like, I love the idea. I go to the sound engineer. I said, you know, I want to do this. Do you think it's possible? Because then it has to change how you put the sound and how we put the everything had to be changed suddenly. You have to remove the way we were filming. It was not supposed to be filmed like this. Now, if you notice, it's a kind of, the camera is moving from her to him and coming back to her. It's like, and we had to remove chairs to put the camera. It was a whole thing. And suddenly everybody was looking at me like, okay, we love your idea, but give us time to execute it. But we did it. And that's cinema, and that's collective work. But because also they believed what I was trying to say. It was like, and when I told Camille, she's like, I love it. I love it. And then I explained and I had also to explain the words to Camille. And that's because she doesn't really understand. She doesn't understand Armenian in the film, right? But she wanted to understand the lyrics. And for me, this scene is one of my favorites in the film. The one that I didn't prepare, the one that, I mean, I prepared little, the one that was really not thought during months and months of writing. And then suddenly it was there. And every time that I do Q&A and everywhere in the world, like at the end, people ask me, what's the name of the song? people Shazam, you know, they use the application to know. It's funny, it's just an example.
And then did this change again in the editing room or
Definitely, and then it was too long, of course. And then my editor said, okay, we cannot keep it. It's too long, it's like 5 minutes. I said, definitely, we cannot keep it 5 minutes. We made a mini cut, and then I sent it to the singer, to Lyoka. I said, do you accept? He goes, of course I accept, it's amazing. But then again, he's like, I thought you're gonna cut even more, because he's somebody that knows cinema, so. And then he gave me his, because it's also a kind of creative rights, like you're cutting his song. I didn't cut much, I cut maybe a minute. It's like instead of 5, it's 4. And then again, for example, maybe I can give you another, do we have time? You know the scene where Céline is talking to the father of Arsine, and then the camera is a one-shot sequence, and then the father becomes Arto, the husband. Do you remember this scene? It's shot in real time. There is no cheating. I think you were there during the shooting of this scene. There is no cheating. And nobody believed. The sound engineer said, what do you mean? I said, well, by the time camera is moving, the father has to stand up, leave, and Arto has to sit. Everybody looked at me like I was insane. No, don't you think we can cut? I said, no, we cannot cut. That's how it has to be. We had a bit of clash. Happens with the cinematographer. Everybody was telling me I'm crazy to do it this way. I said, this is what I want. I was a bit maybe dictatorial, whatever the word is. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is what I want. Let's see how we're going to make it. If we don't manage to have it, okay, I will adapt. But first, let's try to see if we can make it. And we made it. We made rehearsal, and everything was real time. There was the gaffer sitting with like a switch for it, because the light changes. While the camera moves, the light changes. Did you notice that? Yeah. Then the gaffer was like, and then like stand. And then it was like a choreography. It took us time, but we did it. And I think it's also a very beautiful scene. And then also what was interesting that Camille, who plays Céline in the film, said, Tamara, she just added a few words, and that's the take. That's the one I kept, the take, when she says at the end, I hope you don't hurt anymore. J'espère que tu n'as plus peur maintenant. I hope that you're not afraid anymore, sorry. J'espère que tu n'as plus peur maintenant. I didn't write that, but she felt it, and I think it's beautiful. And we all had tears in our eyes when it was done. And when we did this, it was this take, I said, we're done. They're like, but the light was not perfect. I said, I don't care. What was perfect is what she did. And it for me was much more important that the light that was maybe 1 second away than what it had to be. The camera was this. Sometimes also I think it's important that one thing can cover the other. Sometimes you sacrifice. Sometimes like the light is so amazing, maybe the acting is not. Sometimes the acting is so amazing, the light is not. But for me, I give always the most important is the actor. I should not say that. No, but in the sense that sometimes, you can have maybe a shadow on something. And there is one in the archive, in the beginning, a moment, there is a shadow of the camera on the character. Who cares? It's beautiful, the take, what she says, the emotion, the movement, the regard between the two characters, perfect. There's the shadow of the camera on the I don't know what. So these things can happen. But then again, I think you always have to, sometimes I think as a first-time director, we can be like, oh my God, technically it has to be perfect. Yeah, okay. But then again, sometimes it's not perfect, but just everything else is so perfect, is that the emotion is there and it's the most important.
Thank you. I don't know, yes, maybe there are questions related to what Tamara just said. Marjan.
Hello, I'm Marjan. Sorry?
Juni Delam.
Juni Delam, thank you. Yeah, coming from that area, I feel the emotion, connection to the land and the area. And my question is, obviously when you wrote it, I can imagine what you went through when you wrote, because I'm writing as the student here. But making it to a film, every single moment of it, when you're especially talking about your homeland country, and you want to be telling the right way and truth, and no one make a wrong judgment of what you're making. So then you won't feel guilty why I didn't write it. So I'd like to know your process, how you went through. Was it a moment you judged yourself? Was it a moment of a doubt? And yeah, I just wanted to know, just give us some clues, some
clues.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because, well, you know, Iran and Armenia are just next to each other. That's why we talk about region. Definitely. A lot of times I would feel, am I betraying my people if I do that? Is it right to do that? Is it correct to do that? But then again, I think as a filmmaker, you have to come out of this nationalistic point of view. Otherwise, you cannot make films, I think. Because there will be always somebody that's going to judge you. There always be. I had some people who judged me, some Armenians. And what, you know what they told me? How can you make a film about an anti-hero? We are all heroes. I'm like, really? What do you mean? In literature, in cinema, in Greek tragedy, everywhere we have anti-heroes. We cannot just make, like, we Armenians are only heroes. I'm like, no, doesn't exist. And anyway, for me, Arto is not an anti-hero. That's something else we can discuss. But I had criticism, definitely. I had a lot of praising, but I had criticism. And at some point, my discourse to this is I'm making a film. It's a fiction film. It's not a documentary film. I'm not supposed to stick into some kind of rules. I make my cinema. This is mine. This is yours. It's his. It's hers. It's very individual, and it's an art form. And through art, we can express whatever we want. You can make a film about anything you want. Fascist film, anti-hero film, hero film. It's your call. There will be always somebody that's going to judge you, that's going to attack you, that's going to say that it's bad, that you're not a good Iranian person. Definitely. But then again, it's the film you want to make. I think you have to listen to yourself, to your heart, to your intellect. I always say there's a very interesting discussion between here and here. It turns. Some people make films only by here, some people make films only by here, but I think the best is to circulate the intellect and the emotion. And I think in a case where we come from a conflictual zone, especially with what's happening in Iran now, you will always have somebody that's not going to accept, or I think you just have to stick into what you want to say and why you want to say. What's the language? What's the cinematography? You're making a cinema. And through cinema, I think you have the liberty, and God bless this liberty. It's good we have this liberty. Otherwise, why to make films? If you're not going to be crazy and do something completely to break or whatever, then I don't know why to make films.
So did you have ever moment of doubt?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Of course you have doubts. You always have doubts. Till the last minute you have doubts. Until I remember still, we were having lunch with Claire Maton, the cinematographer, 1 day or 2 days before Locarno selected it. Because this film was the opening film of Locarno Film Festival, which is a very big festival in Switzerland. 2 days before, I told Claire, I remember very well, I said, you know, there's this dialogue at the end. Maybe I should add monologue. She said, oh, are you sure? Maybe. Because at some point at the end, before the tombs, where she goes to see the tombs, the father was saying something. I was doubting till the last minute. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should add this. And we did the color correction, we did everything was ready to go. I'm like, I don't know. And then she said, listen, take the time, breathe, and decide. And like 2 days later, I had a call from the artistic director of Locarno that says, well, your film is going to be the opening film, and then you don't ask anymore this question. Do you see my point? I mean, there is always a doubt. There's always a doubt somewhere. Is this right? Is this wrong? But then it's the process. And if you don't doubt, then I think there's a problem. We're talking about doubts also somewhere there. It's a process. And during this process, I think the more you doubt, the more you're going to do something good, I think, because you push. Your doubts push you to think more, to reflect more, to discuss, to go and say, hey, at midnight you call, listen, I have this thing. What do you think? It happened to me, right? I don't know. I guess I called you at some point at midnight. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, should I do this? Should I do that? And then you have always a good friend that's going to say, calm down, have a glass of wine. Everything will be fine. But it's part of the process.
Related to Marian's question, maybe I remember an interesting moment on the shoot when you shot the last sequence when she's shooting the last bullet, and I remember that that the Armenian team and the French team had really two opposite feeling about the sequence.
Yes.
That was kind of striking.
Yes.
And you were caught in between in a way.
But then I had to kind of...
Yes, you had to choose.
And I did it.
Yes, you did. But maybe it's
and
interesting
in the film.
to share.
This is also interesting that some people didn't agree with this shot. They said, well, it doesn't make sense. Why do you need to do that? What does it really mean? But then again, we really had a long discussion. Do you remember the discussion?
Yes, it was 2 or 3 hours before
Yeah.
shooting the scene.
We had to shoot this scene. It was this mountain where we shoot. Just behind it's Azerbaijan. So it's the enemy, right? And we had to do it. And I was like, okay, guys, I wrote it. If I wrote it, it means kind of, I believe it. But then again, I had a doubt also. I'm like, okay, everybody is against it. I'm one of the only people that believes in this.
The French team was against it. The Armenian team was for it. That's why it's related
Yes.
also to...
But also, yeah. And then all these kind of French people who have super experience than me come tell me, oh, franchement, on ne croit pas. We don't believe. I'm like, okay, guys, relax. Why you don't believe? And there's this. And yeah, when people talk to you who have done 30 films and it's your first film, it's a bit impressive. And you have to convince one by one. But Camille believed in it, the actress. Otherwise, she wouldn't do it. Camille believed in it. It's the technicians who didn't believe in it. And they would come and talk to me one by one, like, Tamara, you want to have a walk? I was like, yes, let's have a walk. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a drink. Let's discuss. But then at some point, I remember, I got a bit angry, and I said, okay, cut. End of discussion. I was there to listen to you. Let's discuss. Why are we doing this? Why does she have to shoot? And I said, I explained why she had to shoot. I explained my point of view about it. It has a lot of meanings for me, this one shot. I don't know what meaning it has for you, but for me it has a lot of meaning. And I explained those meanings. And if, yes, the Armenians were backing me up, of course she has to do it. It's the last bullet. We have to give the soul of Arto to the land. And in a way, yes, she had it. For me, it's a kind of ending the circle of violence. The last bullet, to give the soul of Arto to the land that he belongs to end the violence, to finish war. Yeah, and then, of course, there's some people who would say, it doesn't make sense. In any kind of complicated, it can happen, people don't believe in what you do, but anyway, I'm the director. They will do what I'm asking them to do at some point. That's the power we have. And sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's nice because sometimes you use your power. Sometimes you're nice, you're listening, you said, yes, of course, let's have a walk, let's have a talk, whatever, okay. But if you really, because it's also sometimes maybe to test something what you believe, you wonder, are they right? Are they wrong? Maybe they're right, maybe I'm wrong. But then, yes, I was convinced and I did it. And I did it and I'm happy I did it. So I used my power of director and I don't regret it. But it was a process and it took a few hours to discuss. But anyway, we were waiting for the right light, the sun too big, so we had the time. And I think if we didn't have the time, I wouldn't discuss so long. I would say, this is how it is, and we're gonna do it. But also talking about this, you remember also the discussion with Claire Maton about the scene, the paper, not the paper. Because sometimes also when people get so involved in your film, they can also have an opinion about it. And at this point, it was a cinematographer who said, well, no, I don't think that she has to give the paper at this moment. And then I was like, come on, that's what it has to be. Like, Tamara, believe me, you're gonna regret if you don't. I remember still, it was tough this time. It was like the only time I had a real clash with my cinematographer. That can happen too. That can happen too. We had a clash. I think we were also very tired. It was like 2 days before the end. But she was right. And I think also that's important to recognize that maybe the other one is right. That can happen too. And I thanked her after. I said, you were right, and I'm glad that you insisted. She said, I'm not gonna film it. And at some point, the producer said, you don't have the right not to film, it's Tamara's film. She said, okay, do you want me to film? Okay, I will film. You're gonna regret. I looked at her like this, I'm like, okay, it's the first time, and we knew each other, we were very close. We lived so much together, I'm like, okay, maybe she has a point. That's the only time I think I really said, maybe she has a point. I took a break, I took a walk, I remember very well. We discussed, I calmed down, and I said, okay, she's right. I think to recognize also your own error, it's important. And not just to be in your attitude of, I'm the director, I know everything. Really. That requires maturity, that requires thinking and accepting. And then again, I come to the fact we're doing a collective art. Yes, it happened only once during 35 days of shooting, but it marked me, and I think it marked others, and we laugh about it now.
Before maybe moving forward to your other film and also your documentary work, I don't know if there are any other questions related to this movie or what was just said.
Hello.
Hi.
Just wondering, since you said that so many people expressed doubts about scenes in your film,
The what in
especially like so many people went to you and told you their opinions about the movie and the script, even technicians. I'm wondering, like, when do you decide to listen to them and when not, and when do you decide that like it's not their
Like, it's all crap what they say,
yeah, no,
right?
just it's not their role to say it. Like, I'm surprised that technicians went up to you and said their opinions about your script, because usually it's not their role. I'm just confused how you deal with this situation.
There are different ways of making a film. There's different ways of directing a film. And then again, what I said in the beginning about you put limits, you open some doors, and you close others. And I think that's the hardest part, which door you open and which door you close, right? I remember very well the sound engineer, Olivier Morzin, one of the first who came to tell me, and it was the first time he ever interfered, Tamara, I don't think we should do this scene with a gun. It was the first time he was saying in like 35 days of shoot. So of course, if it comes every day, that's a problem, because you have to put your limits. Yes, you are the director. Yes, they have the right to express their opinion. And I remember telling them, if you have something to say, tell me before the shoot starts. Because during the shoot, I will not have the time to deal with doubts and all that. So it didn't happen all the time. Now we're talking about the few examples that happened during the shoot. But it happened rarely, it happened once or twice. But then again, I think we talked a lot before. We made like meetings, production meeting, creative meeting. If people had doubts, they would express. But then again, I think you have to be a bit diplomatic, not to make them feel that that's nonsense what they say. But at the same time, maybe it's also humanly my character. I listen to people, but then again, I did what I wanted to do. But I listened to them. And sometimes when they had a good idea, I integrated in the film. But it didn't happen a lot during the shooting, because also during the shooting, you don't have time for it. Now, particularly this gun scene, we had the time, we needed the sun to go down. So we had the time. But usually you never have time, you're always running after time. So no, I don't think I think I'm somebody that's like listening, but I put limits very fast. But it's different with technicians and with actors. It's not the same. Because actors, in a way, it's more accepted that they give their opinion about a certain dialogue, about something, because they are the one acting. For example, if Camille doesn't feel like saying this word instead of this word, she wants to use a synonym, I don't mind, as long as it fits what she has to say. That's normal with the actors, with the actresses you discuss. But I think it's very important what you said, Julia, because you have to put limits. And the limits have to be clear, otherwise they will climb on your head and you will not know anymore the film you're doing. So it's very important not to let people jump on your back. Because if they do, you'll have a trouble after. And that's, from the beginning, you say, I'm kind, but that's my film. I'm very nice to you, but it's my film, and I know what I'm doing. If you come and say, I don't know, I doubt, should we do this, or no that, and then if they see this doubt in you, yes, they will climb on your back, and you have a hell of a time. And I know directors who suffer a lot. Do you know Dima Malhar? She, a friend of mine, who stopped making fiction films because of this. A very good friend of mine, a very talented Lebanese filmmaker. She made her first feature film, and she was doubting every scene she was shooting. And at some point, everybody started climbing on her, more and more, more and more. She had kind of, it ended in a trauma. She said, never in my life I will make a feature film again. And now she does documentary films. And we had a long discussion about this, how you put limits. She said, I couldn't put limits. I was too lost. I was scared. I didn't know what I'm doing. I was not prepared enough. But here we come to being prepared. How do you prepare for a film? It's very important. You know, like, I did God knows how many times location scouting. I knew my locations by heart. I knew by heart where the sun is coming from, where the sun is going down. But also me. So it means like, it's my person. I do also camera. I know also how to do sound. I'm somebody who felt I needed to know everything so that the other doesn't impose on me. Which means when you talk with an art director, you should know what you're talking about. We're talking colors, we're talking textures. If an art director comes and says, Tamara, this is what it is, and you have to know how to argue to say, well, I don't want that color of the wall. And you have to know why you're saying, it's not just a caprice like, I don't feel like it's green. No, you have to explain why. And I think that's why, to prepare yourself, I would say really put your nose in every little job in cinema. Me, I've worked as a costume, I've worked as assistant, I worked as script. I didn't become a director like that. It doesn't happen. Your students work in the film of your friends as much as you can. Don't sleep at night. Go do more film. Go do another film. Learn. It's the best thing. It's the best way is to work for each other, to learn. That's what we did when I was in film school. Because this is where you learn. This is where you make mistakes. Don't make too much mistakes, but make mistakes. It's important. And I've done everything. I've been a driver on a set. I've been, I don't know, a cook, ironing shirts, whatever, everything. This is how you learn. If you're discussing with your costume designer, you have to know what you're asking. You cannot just say, well, I think she has to put a red T-shirt. Why? They can ask you why. Does it have a meaning? You have to know how to answer to that question. For the camera, when I tell Claire Maton, I want a one-shot sequence and I want the choreography this way or that way, I cannot just come and say, I feel like it. No. Tell me, Tamara, why do you want it? And I remember a long discussion we had, and we said we want to film the invisible. That was the idea of having long takes, to film what we don't see. Because usually you cut things that maybe are insignificant, but we wanted to shoot what was insignificant. And that was the choice. And she loved the idea. She said, let's do it. I think this is also important, no? To prepare future artists that you will be, is to really be prepared to know what you do and why you do, and then what it will be as an effect. Of course, you can be mistaken. That can happen. But it's okay. Just maybe don't make too much mistakes. But you can be mistaken, and that's okay. And also, you have to surround yourself with right people who can help you if you're making a mistake, who can tell you you're making a mistake. And there is put your ego away. Also very important. Because we directors, we think we have a lot of ego. Doesn't work. Put your ego away. I always say this to my students. To you, to other students I had, put your ego away. Believe me. Because it's not about ego. It's not about power. It's about making art. It's about making cinema. And at the end, that's what stays. Nobody cares about how powerful and how smart you are. They see the film. They don't know how it was done. The result is there. It's good or bad. It's the result that talks. I think this is important. So be prepared. Read a lot. I've told you, and I told to others, read a lot. Put your phones away from time to time. Read. Go to see expositions. Go. You know, when I prepare a film, I spend a lot of time in museums, just hanging around. Not necessarily one kind of painting or another. My favorite Musée d'Orsay, I think I've already told you. I spend a lot of time in museum. I go to see plays. I listen to music. I read. Nourish yourself. Because things don't just come like that. But we already talk about this, because I see some of my students here. We already talk a lot about this. I think you agree with me, right? You tell that to your students, no?
Are there any questions about what was just said to the filmmaking? Yeah.
Good evening. I don't know if it's a common issue amongst film students, but sometimes it's partially linked with what you talked about, you know, everyone climbing on your back or not, how to put your ego away, or when to do it or not. And I wanted to talk to you about confidence. In a good way, you seem very confident, and I wanted to ask you how do you think, as a cinematographer, how do you build confidence in what you do and what you are in some way?
That's a tough question. You want to be a director?
I'd kill to be a director.
Or you are a director already? You're a student in directing? It's not an easy question to answer, and I've had this question already before. I would say the more you know what you do, the more confident you will be. The more you are prepared, the more confident you are. Which means that if, for example, I'm talking about trauma, talking about love, immense love, I'm talking about wounds, I'm talking about death, I'm talking about mourning, I'm giving you the keys, right? This subject, it's things that have been haunting me, obsessing me since years. So definitely I've read books about it. I've talked to a lot of soldiers. I've talked to women who have lost their husband. I've talked to kids. It's something you prepare. Confidence is not just like, I'm confident about anything. No, definitely not. But I prepare a lot. I work a lot on myself. I spend a lot of time reading, walking, talking, listening, being attentive to the other, going and traversing this land. I've traversed these locations for 10 years. I'm not telling you to do that. No, you cannot, every film, if it's going to take 10 years, it's going to be problematic. But you go almost like it's an obsession. For me, making a film is like an obsession. It's something that's here. it has to come out. It's hurting, it's pain, it's like doing this, and if it doesn't come out, I won't sleep at night. So in order for it to come out, you work on it. Filmmaking doesn't come like this. I'm super talented. No. Sorry to tell you this. Talent is very little. I'm really sorry to say that. Talent is this. Hard work is this. Of course you have to have talent. If you don't work hard, your talent will be somebody, nobody will see it. Work hard. And work hard doesn't mean, I don't know, it means like prepare yourself, read about your subject, talk to people, read stuff, watch stuff. When I prepare a film, I don't sleep. I dream a lot. You know, during editing, I was dreaming all night. It was horrible. I was editing in my head. And I was exhausted because I was editing in the real time, editing at the night, and it was just at some point I was like, this is too much. But it's kind of obsession. It's something that takes over you. You're like in a trance. It's a bit like a drug. Huh? Whatever that means. It's a drug. You're in it, you're obsessed by it, and definitely once the drug is out, the effect, it's painful. Many people ask me, did you have baby blues? Like, of course, it's normal, but I still don't have it because I'm traveling a lot with the film, going to festivals, presenting. So I think the moment it will be really done, I will have my down, which is normal. I'm expecting it already. But to come back to confidence, I think it's really preparing yourself, surround yourself with good people, brain-wise, intellect-wise, that you go along with, creative-wise, because you're not alone, right? You need a team, creative team, technical team also, but creative team. And I think it's very important you choose the right people. And then this confidence will come because you will know what you're doing. And I'm telling you, when I was preparing, sometimes I would even go to the set before everybody else. Call time is at 8, I was there 7 o'clock. Tamara, you should sleep. I'm like, no, I prefer to be here. And I would just like walking around, and we would go often with Claire, my cinematographer, before anybody else. We would take a coffee, slowly, talk, do the breakdown. We already did the breakdown, but we would again break down, talk, and this, I think, yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bit long, my answer, but it really, I would sum up into saying, resource yourself. Don't think that because you have the talent, you're going to make it. Don't be arrogant, and just resource yourself. Read, watch, talk, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed if you have a doubt. And really, for this film, since it was my first feature film, fiction, I almost did like casting. Of course, not with Claire Maton, because that doesn't, it's like, yeah, it was my dream to work with her. But then again, I knew if she would say no, I knew who I was going next. Like assistant director, I met several people. For me, it was very important. I formed like a family, because this, like, for months, you're with them day and night. So you have to be well surrounded. Did I answer your question? Okay.
For your very interesting and introspective answer. Thank you.
Do you think also that you have a specific itinerary? You were born in Armenia, you studied in Lebanon, but also in Denmark, in Busan, then you came to France. Did it also participate in building the way you are envisioning the film-making process, or to build up this confidence, or just the way you work?
Yeah, but definitely, because when I finished, I'm born in Armenia, I'm raised in Lebanon, so I studied in an American film school in Lebanon, which was really bad, but it's okay. But sometimes I say, when you're in a bad school, I shouldn't say that. Cut. I shouldn't say that. So whoever is filming, you cut this part. No, in a way, what I was trying to say that I had a lot of free time. And in my free time, I did all the retrospectives of all the film directors. And we were like a group of friends who would make films, even if nobody asked us to make films. Don't wait somebody to tell you to make a film in order to make a film. just write and do. And we would do a lot. We would sometimes go and cheat and get material we didn't have the right to. Like, hey, it's okay, you get this, you get that, let's make a film at home, and this play. We were always in the process. And I think that's a good thing about American film schools, which is not the same in French film schools in Lebanon. They had you have a lot of time, you have a lot of elective courses, and then you have a lot of freedom. And I think the fact that I went from a very kind of liberal American system into a very Danish system, which is very different. And that was documentary filmmaking. So in between both film schools, there were 4 years where I worked a lot in like technical stuff, like assistant director, costume, assistant costume, script girl, runner, driver, whatever, everything. But it was very interesting because we were shooting at the time in 35 millimeters, something maybe you don't know. And I hope you will know one day again. I learned a lot on working on like sets of other people. I was very attentive, curious, and that's where you understand. And I remember, I will say this, sorry, just it's a little anecdote. When I finished film school, I had a very good grade. My film was kind of the best, whatever, blah, blah. And when you finish film school, you think you're Tarkovsky and Fellini and all that, right? You come, your nose is up in the sky, everybody's like applauding you, and then comes the reality. And in the reality, I remember very well, my friend called, said, I need an assistant. And I said, okay, what should I do? Iron shirts. Like, oh, that's why I studied film school, to iron shirts. I swear, I was like in a kind of trauma. And then I said, put your ego away and go on iron shirts. Why am I telling you? Because deception can be hard when you finish film school, but don't worry. It's steps. You have to go through steps to come to what you want. Maybe you are some super talented director, and at 25, you're doing your first film, and it's going to be amazing. Perhaps. Or not. But it's okay. There's just steps. They're like, like stairs. You climb stairs, right? But then again, there was this opportunity to do kind of master program in Denmark. And I was feeling, oh, I'm too old. I was like, how old I was, 28, 27. And then I also, before Denmark, I was in Korea. There was a kind of a program inviting young Asian filmmakers, producers, editors, sound people. It's part of Busan International Film Festival. And some of you, I think you are eligible if you come from Asian country. And it's an amazing experience because they get really like, I was a young Lebanese director at the time. And we had to work in team, and we stayed, it was like a month and a half. But so not to go into details, but what you say is interesting because I felt I had different like layers. The Lebanese layer, the Asian layer, and then the Danish Nordic layer. And I think when you accumulate different layers, I think it helped me to create what I do. Sometimes when I say, do you consider yourself Armenian, Lebanese, French? I say, whatever, I'm just a filmmaker. What does it mean? Today, I'm called Franco-Armenian, a French-Armenian. I'm like, what does it mean? For me, it doesn't mean much. You're a filmmaker. And I think the fact that I had this kind of different schools, right? Different education, different methods. The Danish method has nothing to do with Korean method, has nothing to do with American method. But it's interesting to know them all because at some point, you're going to just like in a soup, you mix them and you make your own method. That's, I think, to come to answer to your question. But it helps. Open up.
You were describing the way you shot the sequence in the bus and the way you were, in a way, able to welcome the unexpected, the bus driver not wanting to the presence of the rapper. And you said that having shot a documentary helped you in a way to be able to welcome the unexpected. Maybe yes, maybe you could develop that point.
Yeah, I think we talked in class about this, no? Youth over there. I think we did talk about the documentary and how a documentary can help. If you ask me, I would say you all have to do documentary before going to fiction. But that's very point of view. But why? Because when you make a documentary film, you're patient. You know how to look the other. You're not just in your own creation. You're curious of the other. When you do only fiction, you think that what you've created in your brain and what you put on paper is the best. Well, perhaps. But I think the fact that when you make a documentary film, you take so much time to watch, to observe, to wait. Sometimes it can be hours, sometimes it can be days. And I remember in class we talked about some experiences I had. Sometimes I had to wait for a week before I could film the character I needed to film. Took me the time it did. And it's okay. Patience. But also, it's not only about patience, it's also about observation. You observe a lot. And from observing, you write the fiction. If you don't take the time to observe what is around you, I don't believe you can do fiction if you don't take the time to observe around you. That's my very personal opinion. And I'm sure that the fact that I come from documentary nourished the fiction I did. And I think there are some documentary elements in the film. And I mean, I like this kind of cinema. Other directors will not agree with me, and it's okay. And it's okay, there's not one way of making a film. There are filmmakers who never done documentaries and they do fiction films, and they do amazing films. But some very good directors that I know, they all have done documentaries before because they all have been sensitive to the real. Because I believe that even if we're creating a mythological film, there is real in it. And also, I think patience. Because how do you spend 10 years writing a film and making it if you don't have the patience? At sometimes you just say, I'll do something else. Persévérance. C'est quoi persévérance en français? Perseverance, you know the word? It's very important. Very, very important. Just, yeah.
You were talking about also the ability to look at the other. What do you mean? Is it something you encounter when you start to work on a documentary?
Of course, because, you know, like to give an example of, I shot a film in a place that's called Maison des Femmes. It means House of Women. Basically, it's a place where women who went through domestic violence, incest, like really horrible stuff, rape, they go there to heal, to reconstruct. I spent months just going there and spending time with them. I didn't film. You cannot just film. You watch the other first with your eyes and then with your camera. And this is what I'm talking about, watching, looking, listening. I listen to their stories. You cannot arrive in a place where the person in front of you went through rape and they're like, oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to make a film about you. They would say, just get out of the room. No, it doesn't happen like that. And in documentary cinema, we talked in class also, it's so important to just sit, create a human relation, discuss, listen to the other, share also your story, because they're also curious about you. You don't have to tell all the details of your life, no. But it's a kind of sharing. We say sharing and caring. I mean, it's something that goes in around. You cannot just arrive if you want to make a film, a documentary film, you cannot just come and say, oh, I find it very interesting, the subject, I'm going to make a film about you. They will say, the door is there, just get out of here. And that has happened. Not to me, to people I know, but it has happened. And then again, I think it's very, very trivial to take the time to understand the other, to look, and this will help you later in fiction when you're writing your characters. You cannot just invent without knowing. For example, I could not, or we could not invent a woman in mourning if we had never talked about a woman who has been in mourning. And one of the most beautiful comments I had in one of the screenings in Paris is a woman who stood up and she said, I thank you for this film, and I want to tell you something. I lost my husband like a year ago, and I was like, okay, but it's so just what you're describing. C'est très juste. It's so just. It's not more, it's not less, it's just. I lost my husband, I know what I'm talking about. I was like, whew. And I think it's one of the best comments I ever had. You see the point? It means you're not, of course you can always cheat, you can always do what you want, it's fiction, but I don't know, coming where I come from, I prefer to really plunge into the real in order to create my own fiction.
We have a question from Marie. Question that maybe is related to documentary. Is Marie there?
She left.
Marie Chouaco? Oui?
Ah, she's here.
Hi, sorry,
Hello.
I'm just a little, how can I say that? I'm tétolaire. I was wondering what event or personal experience inspired you to showcase that much humanity in your artistry?
What experience?
Or personal
Experience.
Yeah.
experience
Inspire you to
to
showcase.
that much humanity in your movies and documentaries. What exactly encouraged
beautiful
you
question.
to
Yeah.
bring because it's not really like common for it or to some documentary director to be like, I want to do documentaries without a reason. To me, it feels always personal, like there is something that
Right,
encouraged
yeah.
them to be interested in certain part of the documentary genre. I think it's always a part of, even in fiction, but to me, it feels documentary, it feels personal to me.
Thank you, Marie. Like I said, I think I was answering to you, when I start to work on a project, on a film, first it's a project, it's an idea, often it's something that bothers me strongly. It comes always from there. I cannot, until now, I haven't done something that's like, oh, I find it interesting, let's make a film about it. No, it's something that's always like troubling deep. It's deep trouble. It's something that if I don't do, I cannot sleep. Right now, I'm working on another documentary other than the Maison de Femme, what I said, and it's something that's deeply troubling me. Often it's things that I read in a journal or in a society, or things I hear, and then I go starting making research. Well, I think because...
Sorry to interrupt, could you give precise example
Of course, like for example, my previous film, the one that I did just before my Armenian fandoms, it's called Village of Women. It happens in a little village in Armenia where there's no men because men go to Moscow to work. They come only in the winter to stay a bit with their kids, their wife, they make new babies, they marry, they divorce, and they live again. Classical schema. And then I was like, what on earth? Why? What's happening? Why in villages there's no work? I needed to understand. And I also needed to understand how this departure of men is empowering women in a patriarchal society, like Armenia. So I went there, and I started to understand. I started to ask questions. I started to interrogate, almost like an investigative, trying to understand. And that's more I investigated, more I understood that what I cared was not about the fact why the men are leaving, but I wanted to understand how the women are waiting. So I spent 1 year with these women to explore their life, to understand their place, to understand their waiting, to just be there. And the result is a film called Village of Women that has been like to 100 festivals, that won like 12 prizes all over the world. I was not expecting it. In the beginning, it was I was all alone. Camera, sound, I was doing everything. Cooking, taking care of the kids, taking care of the cows. I was living with them in a little house, like sleeping in the kids' room on a broken bed. That's also something you do when you make documentary films. Comfort, there was none. Money, there was none. But I wanted to make the film. It's something that comes from deep, deep, deep. I kind of put like projector lights in places where there is no light. I wanted to give them place to talk, because these are people who don't have a place to talk. And I realize that I often do this in my films. I go towards people or towards areas where there is no light, where it's dark, where these people are silenced. I think also there's something very social in my films, like not like a social work, but something that push to make the one that's going to watch think and reflect and say, this exists also. I remember when I was screening Village of Women in French, I did like a tournée, like when you go in many cities in France. And I remember one time a woman of certain age stood up and said, you know, we French people like to nag. I said, that I know. She said, we keep our time nagging, but we have such a comfortable life. For her, it was like a prise de conscience, like suddenly she was like aware that, oh, what we have is a very comfortable life. And I looked at her, I'm like, yeah, it's true, French people nag a lot. Coming from where I come from, having lived what I've lived, sometimes I'm like, please, calm down. You have such a nice life, just enjoy it. And try it maybe not to bother others also to live. But I think it's this kind of subjects. My next project is a prison. You would say, why on earth, my daughter asked me, why on earth do you want to make a film in a prison? Don't you have another subject? And I told her, I explained to her why I wanted to make a film in a prison. And she's like, that's nice of you. I'm like, I don't know, it's about nice of me or not, but I'm telling you this a project I'm working on now. And the reason is because in men's prison, there's a waiting list of 6 months if you want to visit a man. In the women's prison, there's nobody. Because women, once they're in prison, they're abandoned by society, by their husbands, by their brothers, by their fathers, because it's a shame for a woman to be in prison. That makes me angry, see? Anger makes a film, in this case.
Another question? From Marie or from Marjane, for instance?
I think some part you answered.
Can somebody give her the mic? Yes, thank you.
I just want to quickly, I think you answered some part of it, but as I have you, so I just wanted to reinforce. You mentioned you have about a 30 documentary film made in your toolkit, and you went for your first feature film. So what is your advice for us as a brand new directors to, if you want to start our first? So obviously we will have a lot of doubt, a lot of, am I doing it right? Is it the right way? Is it the right shot? Is it the right concept? What's your advice? That's really golden for me, at least. Thank you.
First, I think before thinking if it's the right shot, or I think you have to really think what you want to do. Listen to yourself, what you want to express, and why. You and yourself. Discuss between you and you before going to others. Why I want to make it. Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? It's the first film. It's not a first film. Is it a fiction? Is it a documentary? Is it an animation? Is it experimental? First, try to understand the film you want to make. Don't listen to others. You. And then when you start to talk with the others, they will make you doubt. The more they make you doubt, the more you will know the film you want to do. That's my opinion, because some people would say, no, I don't talk about it until I'm already done with the script. Me, I talk, I discuss, I listen, I wonder, I doubt. I think first, it's important to understand first, the film you want to do. Marjane, you. Not your father, not your brother, not your sister, not your lover, you. Once you clear out in you start to write. Me, I write a lot in my head before going into the paper, but that's me. And that, I think you will say it's not good, because he's a script writer. Huh? That's normal. But, no? I don't know. So, but I would, I write a lot, I'm a lot on my bicycle, and I do a lot of biking and writing in my head. It's my way. Everybody has a way. I think you have to create your own way, and then you go to talk with your lover, with your friend, with your sister, with a camarade in class, somebody you trust, with a teacher. You do that, and then the more you discuss, the more you interrogate yourself. You write a synopsis, a treatment, a script. It's never easy a first film, and nobody is going to pay you in the beginning to write. I'm sorry. I have to break your, a bit your maybe dream world, but nobody in the beginning, nobody is going to pay you. After that, you will be paid, don't worry. But in the beginning, I think it's a process. That's why I talked about steps. But don't be discouraged, never. Go and do, and somebody will tell you it's shit. You say, okay, I'm going to write again until somebody tells you it's amazing. It has happened.
But if you wrote it and you want to make it, you mentioned you just need to come back to yourself to see what sort of film you want to make.
Yeah.
Doesn't it push you through the ego to be egoistic and concentrating only on you and not listening to others? I think it's a very narrow area.
I don't call it ego. I call more knowing what you want. I think it's more about really knowing what you want and being sure of the idea you want to do. But then again, I think, for example, me, I think it was very vital that I wrote with others. That helped me a lot. Maybe you can give an example. No? Okay. But I think the fact that first we were together, and then we wrote together for many years, and then we invited others, and at the end we ended up we are 5 in it. The original idea is us, me and Jean-Christophe. But later we added people we trusted, people we liked, their ideas and everything, and then we ended up just like, it's a big, like a melting pot. And it was interesting. 2 of our scriptwriters are Lebanese, who lived the Lebanese war, which was also interesting to invite people. Like, I'm the only Armenian, there are 2 French and 2 Lebanese. And it was also interesting to kind of create that's why when I said, surround yourself with people who are like your co-collaborators, partners in crime, partners in love. I don't know, surround yourself with the right people. I think that's very, and then by discussing more and more, it can help you also to know what you want. That would be my advice. Don't close yourself in yourself. I don't know if that's so English. I translated it from French. Don't lock down yourself. That would be my advice, I guess.
But did it already happen to you to start a project and to realize that, well, it was not worth it? Or do you make the distinction? At what point are you sure that you're really holding something? You are on the track of something that has some value or meaning? Because I imagine as a documentary filmmaker, sometimes your curiosity can be aroused, I don't know, by a topic, a subject,
yes.
But then you realize, well, there is no film.
It has happened. Definitely it has happened that I had an idea that it didn't develop into a film because maybe it was not bothering me enough. It was not troubling me enough. It was not obsessing me enough. And then I said, well, yeah, it's interesting, but no, maybe it's not the right moment to do. That also can happen. You, for example, something that you're curious of, and then you're like, yeah, okay, but then you're discouraged. You're not, it doesn't drive you. The drive is not there. That's how I believe. And then I put it aside, and maybe I will take it back in 10 years or not. I think also that's very important to know, because when you engage to do something, you're engaged to do it. You're married, I don't know, you're married to your subject until you're done with it, right? You're in it, you're part of it, it's part of you, it becomes part of your body, you become part of the body of this film, and then you will have to end it, right? I mean, some directors I know that they start, they don't end. It happens also, they get discouraged, they don't get the money. Everything can happen and anything can happen. But then my advice to you would just go till the end, until you do it and you finish it, even if you have no money anymore, or you don't believe, you're tired, you're exhausted, take a break and come back, ask a friend to help you. Don't hesitate to ask friends to help. That's also important. Some people are too proud to ask help. I'm the first. But sometimes you just have to put your pride away and ask for help, because sometimes it can be very precious, really.
So we have the time for one last question.
Yes.
Thank you for the time, and I would like to know, what did you receive from this film, and what was the process from the start to the finish? Did you change or evolve as a director or human being? If you
Did this film transform you as a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And you know, what's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel. I'll tell you something. Sometimes when I think of it, I'm almost happy that it took me 10 years to do it, because I matured as a filmmaker and as a human, as a woman. When I started to write this film, when we started to write the film, that was like in 2014. And then the film I shot in 2024, so it took 10 years. In between, I had other films, I had kids, and it also changes the person that you are. You grow up. I went through so much, and I think definitely it added the maturity that I needed to make a film like this. It's not an easy film. It's not an easy film. It's humanly, intellectually very challenging. And I kind of got ready to make it. So definitely it changed me a lot in a good way, and also maybe not in a bad way, but I don't want to discourage you, but you realize also when you make a feature film that it can be very, very difficult. Cinema can be very complicated, the cinematic world, because artistically it's something, but also there's all the people that surround you. You work around 60 people in a feature film. There, I don't know, we were how many? You see, like the credits, they rolled forever. We were so many. And it's not the most, we have a saying, we say it's a shark world. You have to be a shark. I refuse. I'm not a shark and I will never be. But it's a shark world. And you have to float fast to make it, not to be eaten by the shark. This is not to discourage you, please. No, no. There are very nice people, but there are also a lot of people that are gonna try to discourage you. But then again, I think the more you're prepared emotionally, humanly, intellectually, that's why I'm talking about reading, watching films, not only series. I told my students before, series is not cinema. Don't hate me for what I say. That's not cinema. Go and do the retrospective of Cassavet, Bresson. Go and watch films as much as you can. You know all how to pirate movies? Go and do it. Yes, I'm telling you to do it because I think it's so important. You can find everywhere. You can find in streaming, you can find for free, you can find, there must be Mediatek or something in ESRA, I'm sure. Go like, I always tell this to my students, and I did it as I was a student. We were like the rats of the studio, sitting there and watching and thinking and reflecting and making. I'm sorry, maybe I'm getting a bit far, but yes, definitely it changed me, and I feel more than ready now to make a second feature film. It took me the time it took me. It exhausted me. I'm not gonna hide it from you. It exhausted me to make this film. At the end, I was like, I don't know, call it what you want. I think I slept for a month. 1 month, I was just a zombie when I finished the editing and the shooting. I was like sleeping all day long. I couldn't even, do anything because it's very exhausting. It's very tiring, but it's very gratifying. It's a very beautiful process. And once you finish it, it's just, you're so happy. And it's something, like I said, it's like a drug. It obsesses you. It's there. You're like on a high all the time. And it's a very, like editing, I think for me is one of the most interesting process. It's amazing. And it's amazing. You get into that room, and with my editor, we spent like 12 hours a day. Everybody hated me for it, of course, but that's how it was. I was 12 hours a day in the editing room, and it's just amazing. It's a process. It's a creative process all the time, all the time, all the time. It's very strong. It's very beautiful. And definitely you grow up as a human. You grow up as a filmmaker, definitely. But then you hope that your second film, you're not going to take another 10 years to make, because then otherwise it will be a bit problematic.
But that's what we wish for you. Thank you, Tamara, for your time and your generosity.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for organizing it.
Very pleasure.
And I'm happy to see my students again and to see those that I don't know. And just please, I'm telling it off screen if you want, don't ever be discouraged. Fight and just walk, even if you have metallic doors in front of you, break them with help of your friends, colleagues. Don't ever get discouraged. Okay? Promise?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.